Okay, so if you are watching this video right now, you are watching from my YouTube channel. I appreciate you very, very much. If you're new here, you can hit that subscribe button if you would like to, if you feel led to, which I'm sure you will, because I'm going to be posting a ton of very valuable content, so I'm sure you won't want to miss it. Anyways, what we're going to be talking about is what black magic truly is. And black magic is something that is very misunderstood by most people who are speaking about it because they're on the outside looking in, and we can never really understand something from the outside looking in, especially when there's so much programming and so much conditioning that goes into conditioning the subconscious to think that black magic is something that has to be bad, and to think that black magic is something that is wrong or something that is evil, when in reality, everything is about our relationship with it. And black magic does not have to be used in an oppressive way. And it doesn't have to be used to hurt other people, even though there are people that use it in this way. And if it goes with the flow of the video, I might actually be getting into that as well. But, getting right into it, black magic is going to be the conscious utilization of the negative polarity. So if you think of a battery, it has two sides. We have the positive and we have the negative. If you were to cut the battery in half, either to just be negative or to just be positive, when you put that battery inside the radio, let's say it's a handheld radio, it isn't going to do anything, because you need positive and negative to create power. So black magic is the utilization of the negative to bring out a positive from it. This is what real black magic is at its absolute core and in its absolute purest form. Black magic is always going to be associated with the negative polarity. And if you don't know what the negative polarity is, the negative polarity is associated with the Klipothic tree of death. It's associated with more so dissolving destructive energies. It's associated with death energy and the death current. And it's also associated with darker extraterrestrial forces and darker spirits in general. Oftentimes, a person who is a black magician is going to be working with forces that are considered demonic. And all demonic really means, it's more of like a newer term, right? It's actually something that was meant to kind of throw an inverted label on forces that predate the people that were trying to throw the label on these forces. So when I say demonic, what I actually mean is very ancient, very primal gods and goddesses that before they were even considered demons, these were highly respected forces, and they have more so of a connection with that primordial essence. So the very beginnings of our universe, we can say, start with the negative polarity. It starts with the abyss. It starts with the void, which is like this space of nothing but actually contained the everything. It's the very beginnings of anything that comes into creation. And there's the reason why we can consider it nothing and everything is because to the human consciousness, there's so much information within the void itself, so many different realities that are existing all at once that are potentialities waiting to become manifest, that it seems paradoxical to us because it's too much information for us to possibly fathom. So, as a black magician, or when we're utilizing black magic, we're potentially tapping into those unmanifest realities and we're bringing them into manifestation. We're bringing them into form. So whenever we're talking about darkness, we're talking about the primordial chaos. We're talking about this void space that I'm referring to. And whenever we're talking about light, we're talking about order. We're talking about structure, and we're talking about form. So a black magician goes very deeply into the negative charge to bring a positive out of that and to bring form and to bring order to their existence. This even happens on a mass collective level, because a black magician is actually going to be a person that typically has a deeper sole purpose to come here and to incarnate to actually create catalyst for the mass collective consciousness through the utilization of black magic. And this catalyst is actually, it's not meant to be oppressive, although there are black magicians that utilize black magic in that way, and we might get into that later in the video. But this catalyst is meant to be something that is healthy, and it's meant to initiate a mass collective ego death and a mass collective dissolving effect that benefits people who are attached to a false sense of self-identity, who are attached to limiting belief systems, who are attached to unhealthy relationships, and they might not even know it. So a black magician is somebody that has a deeper soul connection with the primordial chaos, with the negative polarity, and, essentially we're like everyone else. We don't necessarily know this for a lot of our lives, but as we start to go through like a spiritual awakening, at some point we become aware of our purpose. And oftentimes, once again, our purpose is to initiate catalyst into the collective through the work that we do, working with the forces of black magic, working with the negative polarity, and working with the primal chaos. Because as we're alchemizing this primal chaos into our energetic field and into our body through the principle of as above, so below, as within, so without, it's causing a ripple effect into the collective that's now, basically dissolving psychological barriers. It's bringing pressure to artificial constructs, and it's even bringing people closer to that primordial chaos space, which is actually what we all come from. You can think as like on a cosmic level, I'll say it like this. So the same way in the physical plane, our mother is where we come from. Our cosmic mother is actually the primordial chaos. So a black magician, our very existence brings people closer to the cosmic mother. It brings people closer to the dark feminine energy within them, which they've most likely been suppressing and unaware of for their entire lives. And a lot of us, we actually have a deeper soul resonance with darker extraterrestrial forces. And there's a lot of conditioning to make people think that dark means evil or it means bad. Even in the New Age community, there's a lot of talk of reptilians being bad and these darker aliens, they're bad and they're the bad guys. But this is actually what I like to call dualistic programming or separation programming that goes into the subconscious to make people actually shame the part of themselves that is in connection to those darker forces, which is going to be like a shadow aspect of ourselves. It's going to have to do with our primal unconscious. And the way this works is because at the highest levels we can think about it, and at the highest levels of consciousness, aside from our physical body consciousness, everything is us pushed out. So everything in existence, including me, is an aspect of you. So when you demonize something and you're taught to think that it's wrong, or you're taught to think that it's bad, or, it needs to be ignored or not acknowledged for, playing a role in the cosmic ecosystem, you're also stuffing down and shaming the part of you that whatever that force is a representation of within the self. And, a black magician is a person, we see through these veils. We see through the illusions of all of this programming, and it's because we utilize black magic to go through a very deep level of deconditioning. Black magic is something that's very, very dissolving. And it's going to dissolve the limiting beliefs. It's going to dissolve the subconscious programs. It's going to dissolve the false identity construct and the different identities that we actually utilize as protective adaptations. And what we're protecting us from ourselves from on a subconscious level is trauma that is taking place within our system that most people are not educated about, and most people spend their entire lives being completely unaware of. So a black magician is also a person that works through trauma and understands the aspect of the shadow that is holding the burden of that trauma. And as we're experiencing that willingly, we're also releasing that from our energetic field. And this is also giving us the ability to dissolve a lot of the programming that's in the subconscious that makes the average person think that black magic is bad, or that dark means bad, or that death means evil. None of these things are actually bad. And there's no bad forces that are existing in our multiverse. It's like saying a lion, because it's a predator, it's bad and it's wrong, right? A lion's not bad. If you were to take lions out of the ecosystem, it would, probably hurt the entirety of the ecosystem because they play a very important role. So it's like that, with anything else. And we want to see everything as being an aspect of us because we're all the source energy. And working with black magic to the highest degree that it's possible is going to bring us in touch, or back in touch, I should say, because we came into the world with it but got disconnected from it. It's going to bring us back in touch with the source energy within the self, because black magic is going to bring us into the void. And it's from the void that the source creates all things. Everything comes from this primal chaos-based space. It comes from the unmanifest into manifestation, which once again is light. We have the positive and we have the negative. Black magic is all about understanding and consciously utilizing the negative polarity. And that's really all it is. And black magic is an extremely profound way of going through a process of self-development. And black magic is oftentimes going to be in association with working with darker extraterrestrial forces that we're often calling into our bodies. And this is causing major shifts in consciousness to take place. Now, is this necessarily for everyone? No, because there's a lot of deconditioning that happens, and there's a lot of pressurization that takes place within the human psyche. So aspects, or we could say fragmentations within the psyche that can take the form of belief systems, perceptions, personas, and identities that are not actually who we are, that we formed as a protective adaptation. Our identification with them begins to get dissolved. So imagine thinking you were a certain person your whole life, and that identity or that fragment within your psyche, it holds perceptions, it holds beliefs, it holds ways of doing things that you're very attached to. And you don't know that when you're working with black magic, that it's meant to break, it's meant to like pressurize and dissolve that identification so you let it go. You can actually end up in a really bad mental space if you don't understand the natural byproduct of working, with these energetic currents. When we're working with black magic, we're working with the death current. We're working with the primordial chaos within our universe, which naturally has this very dissolving effect. But if you know what you're doing and you're willing to let go, if you're willing to go through some of the deepest levels of ego death that a human being can possibly go through, then you can absolutely benefit from working with black magic. Now, everything is our relationship with it. There are high-level occultists and people that we can call the elites or the 1% or the deep state or whatever you want to call them. They actually utilize black magic through the major industries in order to shell consciousness, in order to cripple consciousness. And a lot of the time they're doing this by programming the mass collective subconscious to create the reality that they want. And what they want us to experience is a confining reality where we don't know ourselves, and where we create these identity constructs, and then we live our lives as these, and we create physical experience from this space that is artificial, and it's not actually who we are. So more and more people are waking up to this, waking up to the fact it's happening. And this is what makes all people also think that black magic is bad. But it's the same thing with like a firearm. It's how you use it. Obviously, it can be used, to control someone or to stick someone up, right? Whatever it is. But that doesn't mean that the firearm itself is bad, and it can't be used for productive means in a productive way. So it's the same thing with black magic. There are black magicians who absolutely want to cripple consciousness and manipulate and control people with their knowledge of how the psyche operates. But there are also black magicians that don't operate in that way. And we actually understand that we provide a very healthy catalyst for the collective through these different practices that we do in our lives that are in connection with black magic, and that are in connection with darker extraterrestrial forces that we actually become a channel for. And I'm speaking from personal experience. I channel a lot of these entities through my body and into the world, and I absolutely know that there is going to be a dissolving effect that takes place within the mass collective psyche. But I know that this is actually what the collective needs to have a better understanding of itself. But this might sound alarming to you if you're not a person that has built a very deep connection with death. Because death is something that can only take away the illusions. It can only take away what we are not. And a person who's consciously utilizing black magic has died and will die many, many, many times over and over and over. But with every death comes a rebirth. And on a deeper soul level, a black magician, and we don't have to use that title, but a black magician and somebody that has a deep conscious connection with the negative polarity and the utilization of that polarity before we even come here and incarnate into, our body, we have the purpose of basically creating this dying effect within the collective so it can expand its consciousness and expand its awareness. So individuals that are more so in resonance with working with black magic and working with the negative polarity, a lot of us, as we're walking our path and we're going through the process of awakening and ascension, through descension, basically, we start to remember that before we even came here, it was actually a mission, or our mission, to initiate catalyst into the collective that's actually meant to be a very healthy thing and a very beneficial thing. Imagine being like a bodybuilder, or going to the gym. You cannot actually build muscle and expand your muscle if you're not tearing the muscle. The tearing isn't bad, it's actually a good thing. So it's kind of similar in relation to what we're initiating into the mass collective consciousness. It is absolutely meant to benefit. But with that being said, I think I'm gonna wrap the video up here. Black magic, there's a lot of misunderstanding about what it actually is, and although there are people that use it to hurt others, from the purest lens that we can view it through, that's actually not what it's intended for, and it has a much deeper purpose than, psychic warfare and harming others and stuff like that. Black magic can be something that's highly beneficial for one's own evolutionary growth process. And then to those of us that are utilizing black magic, we also begin to become aware, because not let me back up a little bit. Not everyone is meant to utilize, black magic in the way that a black magician does, or somebody that, has a deeper resonance with the negative polarity, with the negative polarity does. But to those of us that do, we become aware that before we even incarnated here, we have this purpose of creating catalyst within the world that sets the stage for a really deep healing of the mass collective psyche, and it acts as a catalyst for the ascension process of every human being on our planet. So this is how it affects everybody collectively. And, this all starts with utilizing it on a personal level to go through some of the deepest levels of ego dissolution and some of the deepest levels of healing that a person can possibly go through. So that's my message, and it's been an honor to share it with every single one of you, and I will certainly see you in the next video.